Sarah Whitfield had lived 34 years without ever once questioning who she was. She grew up in a small town in Oregon, raised by two loving parents, Robert and Diane Whitfield. She had a normal childhood, school plays, birthday parties, awkward teenage years, and a golden retriever named Max who slept at the foot of her bed every night. There was nothing about her life that suggested she was anything other than an ordinary American woman. At 29, she married Daniel Reyes, a kind-hearted paramedic with an easy laugh and steady hands. Their wedding was small, held in a backyard strung with fairy lights. Everyone said they were perfect for each other, two ordinary people building an ordinary life. But 5 years into their marriage, something extraordinary would shatter everything Sarah thought she knew. It started with headaches. Not the kind that pain relievers could fix. Sharp, blinding pain that came in waves, always at night, always accompanied by strange dreams. In these dreams, Sarah saw skies she didn't recognize, colors that didn't exist on Earth, and a voice that whispered a language she had never heard, yet somehow understood. Daniel grew worried. He convinced her to see a neurologist, Dr. Elena Marsh, at a research hospital in Portland. What began as a routine MRI turned into something no one expected. There are anomalies in her brain structure, Dr. Marsh said, staring at the scans with a furrowed brow. Areas that shouldn't exist in a normal human brain. I need to run more tests, blood work, full genetic sequencing. Sarah agreed, more out of fear than curiosity. She simply wanted the headaches to stop. 3 weeks later, Dr. Marsh called her into the office. Her voice was calm, but her hands trembled as she opened the folder. "Sarah," she said slowly, "I don't know how to tell you this. Your DNA, it doesn't match standard human genetic markers. There are sequences here I've never seen in any database. Not human, not any known primate, not anything we have on record." Sarah laughed, assuming it was a mistake. "That's impossible. I have a birth certificate. My parents are right here in this town. I've lived my whole life as a human, yes," Dr. Marsh interrupted gently. "But Sarah, biologically, according to every test we've run twice, your genetic code doesn't originate from Earth." The room went silent. Daniel, who had been sitting beside her, gripped her hand tightly. "There has to be an explanation. Maybe contamination in the sample. Maybe." "We already ruled that out," Dr. Marsh said. "This isn't a lab error." That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, searching her own face for something foreign, something alien. But all she saw was herself. Freckles across her nose, tired brown eyes, the same face she had looked at her whole life. Desperate for answers, Sarah drove 3 hours to her childhood home to confront her parents. She needed to know the truth about her birth. Robert Whitfield sat her down at the kitchen table, his hands folded, his eyes heavy with a secret he had carried for over 3 decades. "We adopted you," he finally admitted, his voice breaking. "Not through a normal agency. We found you, or rather, you were brought to us, by a man who worked at a government research facility outside of town. He said your parents had died in an accident, and he needed a family to raise you quietly. No paperwork, no records. He paid us not to ask questions." Sarah felt the floor tilt beneath her. What accident? Who was he? Robert shook his head. "He never gave details. He just said you were special. That someday someone might come looking for you. He told us to protect you no matter what." Diane, tears streaming down her face, added, "We loved you the moment we saw you, Sarah. You were just a baby. None of this changes that you are our daughter." But it changed everything for Sarah. Over the following weeks, she became consumed with uncovering the truth. She tracked down the man her father described, a retired scientist named Walter Craig, who had once worked for a classified research division connected to unexplained aerial phenomena investigations in the late 1980s. When she finally found him, Walter was elderly, living alone in a modest cabin in rural Washington. At first, he denied everything. But when Sarah showed him her DNA report, his composure crumbled. "You were never supposed to know," Walter whispered. "In 1991, there was an incident. An unidentified craft went down near a remote testing site. Most of what we recovered was classified technology beyond anything we understood. But there was also a survivor, an infant. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. We didn't know what to do with you, Walter continued. The higher-ups wanted you studied, contained. I couldn't let that happen to a child. So a few of us made a decision. We falsified records and placed you with a family who would never suspect a thing. We hoped you would just live a normal, human life. But I'm not human, Sarah said quietly. Biologically, no, Walter admitted. But Sarah, you were raised human. You feel, you love, you fear, you dream just like anyone else born on this earth. Whatever you came from, this world made you who you are. Sarah returned home that night changed forever. She told Daniel everything, terrified he would look at her differently, that their marriage, built on love and trust, would crumble under a truth this impossible. But Daniel simply pulled her into his arms. You're still the woman I fell in love with, he said. The one who makes coffee too strong, who cries during dog commercials, who held my hand through my father's funeral. None of that came from your DNA. That came from you. In the months that followed, Sarah made a choice. She would not let a government file or a scientific anomaly define her. She continued her life as a wife, a daughter, a woman who loved deeply and lived fully, human in every way that mattered, even if her blood told a different story. Some truths, she realized, are bigger than biology. And sometimes, being human was never about where you came from, but about the life you chose to live and the people you chose to love.